hopefully it's not the type of accountability that you just saw. All right? So one of my favorite commercials, I don't know if you've seen Terry Tate or not. He has a whole series of commercials, Reebok commercials from probably, 15, 20 years ago. But our topic is going to be how at least we hold each other accountable, a continuation of the series that we've had. What we're talking about is being dysfunctional. This is based on a book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by an author named Patrick Lencioni. It's a very good book, easy read. And what we've talked about so far is the 3 first elements of the pyramid. Look, raising a family is hard. Leading a team is hard. Serving in Sunday school is even harder. And a lot of these things, if we implement them, can give you some sort of an idea, an introduction to make it a little bit easier and better for us. Nothing is guaranteed. Everything that we're talking about today, and we've talked about in the last 3 weeks, or 3 times, it's easy to do, but hard to implement. And think about it in that sense. Everything what we're talking about, it's not hard. Trust is not hard. But implementing it is the difficult part as we go through it. Okay? Let's recap. First time we talked about trust. Everything starts with trust. It's the foundation. It has to be vulnerability-based trust. Not the trust that you give me something, I give you something else. And the leader must go first. When we're talking about trust, the leader has to go first. And remember, your kids, your family, your team is going to do what you do as a leader, not what you say. And if you remember, we talked about the story of Jacob, and it took him a long time to get to a level where he became somebody that got closer to God and trusted God. And if you recall, it's the story where he wrestled with the angel, and then the angel loosed his hip. And what we said is what? Don't trust anybody that doesn't walk with a limp. Okay? So you keep that story in your mind. The second time we talked about, because fear of conflict. Without building a foundation of trust, you're going to always have to have a fear of conflict. Why? Because conflict becomes politics without trust. With trust, it becomes a pursuit of truth. Okay? Conflict is, you want to have passionate debates. You can't skip over these debates. You have to allow time for it. And it's very important to allow time for it. Otherwise, people don't air things out. And you recall the story that we talked about. Remember that when Jesus, with the disciples, they were walking and saying who's first and who's the greatest. It was right after the transfiguration on the mountain. And what Jesus did, he waited until they arrived in the town. He let them have their debate. And then he sat down with them and had a conflict. He didn't solve their problem for them. He let them air their opinions out. Okay? And then he allowed that conflict to happen, and then they solved the problem. Why is that important? Because if you don't have conflict, and when you skip over those important fights or conflicts, you don't end up committing. And committing it's all about giving enough time to debate passionately, and you have to push that line of debate. And it's about making sure that you disagree and commit. No consensus. Consensus is a 4-letter word. We don't want consensus. Okay? You want to make sure that you give that time and you have that passionate debate. Because when people have that debate, even though they disagree with you, guess what? They're going to commit and move along. And the highlight of that day, if you recall, was Pope Kyrillos. And Pope Kyrillos turned a church that was really sick, tired, and going in a very bad direction. And you want to know what type of person Pope Kyrillos was? He was the type of person that his prayers, God alleviated or at least alleviated his wrath from us. Pope Kyrillos was the type that should have been in the desert and never came out. But the church was that sick that God took an anchorite, probably one of the greatest popes of all time, and he put him in our church for 12 years, and he left that church in a lot better shape than what we was in before. And if you think about it, in what sense? He committed to prayer and silence. Over 12,000 liturgies. A lot of people, even his closest disciples, the ones that he ordained, were in direct conflict with him. He built a lot of trust. He had that conflict with him, but he was more committed to the mission than ever. Okay? So that's a recap for what we talked about before. Why is this important? Because if the team does not commit, and we skip over these important conflicts, we're not going to be able to hold each other accountable. And that's what the topic that we have at hand today. Okay? Jeez, sorry. I love you, but I don't like you. Around my house, I hear that about once a week. Okay? I love you, but I don't like you. Is that possible? Can you love somebody without liking them? Yes. Okay, most of the women are going to say yes. And so I think I pride myself on somebody who holds people accountable. I do that at work. I think I'm pretty good at it. But I'll give you a couple of stories with that. I work a lot and I'm out of the house, but once I come home, Milla would want to go a night with the ladies night out or something. And then she leaves the kids with me. And when I'm traveling or I'm outside, I'm always hearing about how bad the kids are. She can't do this, and I get the list of items that and then she's she leaves them with me. At 9 o'clock, the kid's in bed, right? I'm cracking the whip. I'm holding them accountable. And I think I'm the greatest dad ever. And the kid's probably screaming, and I hate you and stuff in the background. I don't care, but they're in bed. And then she calls, and she's like, hey, how are the kids? And you can see in her voice that she's trying to hear agony or I'm having issues. And I'm like, yeah, the kids are in bed. Everything is all good. And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah, we're cool. So I thought I was doing a pretty good job with that. Come 3 weeks ago, we had Ruth, Abuna's daughter, at our house. And Anna, our little one, and her, they were playing. And they started coloring. And, Daddy, can we do some, silly putty, whatever? Yeah, sure. Can we color? Yeah, sure. And I'm sitting there. I was watching the game. I think it was the NBA playoffs. And she comes home. And the carpets is stained. And things are over the wall. And I'm like, so I thought, I hold people accountable. Apparently, when it comes to that little one, I'm a little bit weak. Okay? And the question that we want to ask ourselves today as we talk, if you love me, or do you love me enough to hold me accountable? And keep that question in our head as we talk today. Do you love me enough to hold me accountable? Because a lot of people associate accountability with toughness, dislike. And hopefully we can unpack that a little bit today. Sure? Accountability is holding somebody to what they committed to. Remember we talked about commitment. If we build a foundation of trust, okay? And we have these healthy conflicts, we can all commit and disagree and commit, but then we can hold each other accountable. The best accountability is that peer-to-peer accountability. Have you ever been on a team, or you've had a Sunday school class, or we see it in our kids sometimes, and I hardly ever see that, where the kids hold each other accountable when they misbehave? One of the biggest part, and knock on wood here, Bism Salib, in this church, one of the biggest things that attracted us to this church is that a lot of parents and young adults who want to raise their kids in the same way. And you only hope that your kids end up in a church where their peers are holding them accountable to be better. And you hope that that kid that influences everybody, we hope that he's not off the wagon, or he's not the one leading them to a nightclub, but leading them to saying, hey, let's go to do tasbih. And peer-to-peer is the best form of accountability. And notice that, you're going to notice that in your work, you'll notice that in church, and you'll notice that among teams. I'll give you an example. When in high school I played on a basketball team, we had the best player in the state. And this guy won player of the state, I think 2 or 3 times. The year that we've had it, we had a very good team. There was no reason whatsoever our team shouldn't have won state that year. But we ended up not even making state. And the reason for that is it goes a little bit deeper into the accountability piece. During spring training, during practices, people would skip lines. Or they wouldn't go as hard. Or they wouldn't run as fast. Or they wouldn't go do their commitments in the weight room. And we didn't hold each other accountable. We all wanted to be buddy-buddy, but nobody held the other accountable. And when we did that, we thought we were being nice to each other. We thought that we were supposed to be, making a better team. And I was supposed to be one of the team leaders there, and I didn't do a good job of pointing out that this is not right. And when you skip practices and you skip these important milestones, you end up not all committing and not playing. And those of you that played sports or coached teams know exactly what I'm talking about. And the rest is history, as they say. But why is that hard? So think about it with me here. Why is it hard for us to hold others accountable? Ideas?
You have to hold yourself first accountable.
So you're worried to be a hypocrite. So good one, Joanna. Rami? Avoiding conflict. That's a big one. I don't want to be in direct conflict. What else?
Adults don't like to be told what to do.
Adults don't like to be told what to do. Okay. Thank you, Jean. What else? Ibrahim? So you don't want to look like the bad guy. Okay? I want people to like me. Okay? So all of these are right. And we'll talk about unpack a little bit of that too. I don't have time to hold people accountable. There is a nice story that Patrick Lencioni says about a CEO that he used to work with. And that CEO, they had, thank you. He was the CEO and the chief operating officer. He was hired, he did a good job, and it was time to hire a chief operating officer. So they opened the role and they started advertising the role, right? And one of his team members on his senior leadership team started talking to everybody on the staff saying, I'm going to get that role. The problem is, he wasn't told that he was going to get the role, number one. Number two, nobody liked him on the staff. Okay? So you can imagine the dynamics there, huh? So this went on long enough, and one of the other team members went to the CEO and said, I have a question. And he goes, is so-and-so gonna get the chief operating officer role? He goes, who told you that? He was like, well, he's going around telling everybody he's going to get the role. He goes, no, he's not going to get the role. It's just him. Hey, you know him. He likes to talk. He goes, well, another question. Are you going to tell him to stop? He goes, no, I don't have time for that. Like, you don't have time for that? How hard is it? Imagine the conversation goes like this. You pick up the phone, and he goes, hey Amir, how you doing? I've been hearing that you've been saying that you're going to get the role. Well, I don't like that, and that's pissing me off. Stop it. Okay, have a good day. How hard is it? But when CEOs and a lot of different leaders around, as strong as they think they are, and as powerful as they think they are, they're actually afraid to have that conflict. Probably because they didn't build the trust and other things that we've talked about. But these guys are not willing to have that difficult discussion. Again, remember we said a lot of these things are easy to do but hard to implement. Okay. Another one. People are worried not to be liked. It's not a popularity contest. You as the parent, if you don't confront the difficult issues in front of your kids, and you don't have these tough discussions, you're going to end up leaving things festering on the sides, and bigger issues will come about it. You need to confront difficult situations with your kids head on. This is needed. And you know that, let me put it this way. You know the biggest problem why none of us like to hold each other accountable? I don't know if any of you, studied graduate level psychology or not, but there is a technical term for that. You know what it is? This is from Patrick, not from me. It's a wuss. Most of us are wusses. Most of us are scared. Most of us don't want to face our kids because we're worried that if we hold our kids accountable, they're not going to like me. I was worried when I'm going to tell Nooni, no, you can't do this. She's not going to like me. And sometimes as parents, we want to have that popularity contest. Okay? So speaking, and let's visit the question again that we said in the beginning. What was the question? Do you love me enough to hold me accountable?
On the other hand, when kids not like the embrace, so
might as well. So what Rami's saying, if the kids don't like me anyway, might as well, nothing is holding me back, right? I believe that they're going to love you for it, right? But that's what we're talking about. So speaking of love, hey, did Christ hold his disciples to higher standards? I have 4 examples here. And then maybe, we'll try to match, see if you guys get the same examples as me. What? Give us an example of how Christ held his disciples to higher standards, accountable.
Get behind me.
Say, get behind me. So Peter. A couple of times actually. Okay, what's another one? That's a good one. That's a good one, Jane. So the Garden of Gethsemane, where he said, hey, can't you guys stay awake a little bit? What else?
Everything and follow.
Leave everything and follow me. All right? And he held him accountable to that. Because remember, we talked last week about, hey, you also want to leave me? What else? Good point.
The boat.
The boat. What did he do in the boat, Hani?
They were afraid, super afraid of the very windy, here.
And then what did he say? Where is your faith? So the first one is the boat. What else? If you don't believe this is my body, you also want to leave? Okay? So the first one is the boat. The second one is Peter, where he was walking behind him, where John was walking behind him, right? Remember on the beach, right after the resurrection? And this is what we're celebrating these days. And what did Jesus tell Peter 3 times? Do you love me? Feed my sheep. Do you love me? Did he let Peter slide after he denied him? He said, yeah, Peter, I don't want to be nasty to Peter. He already felt bad enough about denying me, right?
And he didn't say I'm done.
Right?
I'm done with you, or I'm done shining, or I'm done.
He didn't.
I'm done saving. He didn't just put in the word, cancel it.
He didn't cancel him out. Good one, Jamal. So, but here is the part that we should learn from Christ. He could have easily said what? Peter, you've been through enough, buddy. You cried, you agonized, you denied me, you look bad. But he came back and said what? I'm going to hold you accountable. And it's that important to me so I can make a point so you can learn, so we can move on from here. Remember John and his brother James, where they wanted to do it to the Samaritan village? Remember that? Remember he said, hey, let us call thunder from above and let us destroy him. What did Christ say? I'm not here to destroy. But he held them their account. And finally, in the feeding of the 5,000, he fed the 5,000, he fed the 7,000, and then the disciples came back and said what? When they went on the boat, is it because we didn't take enough bread? That's why he's saying that? And he's like, come on guys. Where's your faith? Okay? So in all these situations, Christ had much higher standards for his disciples, right? Did he love them? Yes. So when he was holding them accountable, it was out of love. So again, we can love each other, okay? And hold each other accountable. So speaking of accountability, introducing St. Mark's weight loss competition. A few have heard about this, right? I'm going to introduce this real quick for you. It has to do with the presentation, but also advertisement for the next one. We had a weight loss competition. This was our second one. Very simple rules. Okay? You pay $300 if you want to lose 10%. You pay $400 if you want to lose 7%, or you pay $500 if you want to lose 5%. And the reason we made it tiers because everybody's different stages in their weight loss journey. And if you're going to risk more, we allowed you to risk a little bit less money. Okay? We prolonged it. This was about 5 months. The last one was about 3.5. And you had to weigh yourself every single week. And all these pictures that you see here are from the app. Everything is from the app. And I see many team members with me. Some happier than others, the ones that lost weight and kept it off. Okay? Some did better than others. But in everything here, it started out with a lot of teasing on the app and making sure that we tell each other how much food we're eating and what videos that we're talking about food, and people are posting all kind of fun stuff. But then things started getting serious and people started posting, and D-Date was coming, and then people started getting nervous. Okay? And you talk to some of us, Rami and Ramzi and I were talking, and then they were like, the last 2 weeks were hell and stressful. Mina delayed his trip to Egypt, for God's sake, because he didn't want to go there when he was there. So we really had fun, but at the same time I think we progressed. But let's say why. And this is the actual Excel sheet that we used, and we used to send it once a week. As you can see, I blacked out the names except for the first two. Okay? Mike won, so we got to give him some bragging rights. Yeah. So I don't know where's Mike, but yeah, you guys tell him congrats. He lost 18%. Okay, that's crazy. I don't know what the drugs he was on. But all these things started being posted every time somebody would get his money. You remember the pictures in the past when people started getting their money? You see Milla right there, not happy. Every time somebody made it, because she was like, I think the last one to make weight. Oh, sorry, honey. Hey, I gotta take my chances. All right? I behaved myself the last 3 presentations. But what we discovered, people were motivated by 3 things. You're motivated by winning. I want to be first. Okay? Or I'm motivated by not losing. Or I was motivated by money. I don't want to lose my money. Okay? All 3 of those. Okay? Nothing in lose. Everybody wants to lose weight. Why haven't we all lost weight yet, right? You have to have a trigger that gets you going. Huh?
Like having fun. This was fun. This was a fun
Yeah, it was a fun thing. Yeah, no, we had a lot of fun and agony and. But if it was fun, if losing weight was fun and losing weight we want, that was the goal. Why aren't we doing it? Think about it that way. Every one of us needs an accountability partner. When you go to the gym, those of you that go to the gym and lift weight, you need an accountability partner. Those of you who have been on a weight loss journey, accountability partner. Those of you who have been on a team, remember, peer pressure is the best form of accountability. And we saw that here. And don't get me wrong, okay? Everybody has good intent. But the way to hell is paved with good intentions, as they say, right? So what made it so effective? What made it so effective is you knew that comes Friday, I'm going to have to send a video. And nobody wanted to step on that scale and say I didn't make weight. Okay? And a lot of us committed because of things like that. So remember what's your motivation and get an accountability partner with you. Okay. So how do we take it from here? I'm flashing in front of you. This is something that I put in front of my team in the beginning of the year. Any new team that I join, okay? Simple equation. I put this in front of them. I say, look, your performance appraisal at the end of the year, I want you to think about it in that way. If you are ahead of me, you're exceeding expectations. If you're not ahead of me, and I'm ahead of you, I'm chasing you, you're not exceeding expectations. If we're not chasing each other, you're in the middle. Take that in for a little bit. If I'm chasing you for an email, or chasing you for an action item, or I'm chasing you to get things done, you're not ahead of me. I'm ahead of you. But if you're constantly one step ahead of me, you're going to be, in my books at least, doing it. Now, I say that with a caveat that I have a reputation of being very fast and very annoying. So the first time, Milla, when your wife comes to the office, and this was in Egypt, and she met our finance leader in the office, and they bonded very well together. And the reason they bonded very well together, they bonded over my hate. And the first thing that he said, I don't know how you live with this guy, because once you give him, and I tried to be better since then, but once you give him an action, he doesn't stop. And I'm following up, and I'm holding people accountable. I want this. And what I realized is I'm doing this at home, and I'm doing it in the office. Now there can be pluses and minuses to that. Okay? But apparently, this was that. And you know what we've discovered in our house? Who's very similar to me? It's the middle one, Emma. Emma, when she wants something, if she's going to school and she knows she's going to be 2 minutes late, she's dressed and she's standing in front of her mom's door. You know that word, Egyptian word, zanana? That's good. And she's very good at that. So I see some people, but I say this and I put this in front of us here, all joking aside. Wouldn't you as an employee, think about it, with the jobs that you've had in your past, wouldn't you want to know with your boss where you stood at any given moment? Isn't that a form of love? That somebody cares enough about you, that tells you where you stand in his or her books at any given moment? So think about it that way, and as we go, we conclude. Last thing, go ahead.
Yes, but please love me less.
Love me less. Look, that's a continuous improvement thing that for me I do. when we talk about, finally, this is the last story. Behavior accountability always precedes results. Remember the parable of the talents? And Christ gave many parables about money, right? And he gave many parables about the talents, right? There's the one that he gave 10, 5, and 1. And we can get stuck on saying, what? It's not fair. Why did he give this guy 1 and he gave that guy 5 and he gave her 10? That's not what we're talking about here. And he's going to judge us according to what he gave us. We know that. He's given us something, and we need to be accountable for that. And rest assuredly that he's going to hold us accountable for that. And when Christ talked about this parable, the ending was not very nice. Because he said, take that one who has the 1 talent, give it to the 10, throw him outside. There are consequences. It's the same way with our family. It's the same way with our teams at work. It's the same thing that we do with people at church. So go back to the question that we asked in the beginning. Do you love me enough to hold me accountable? Okay? And maybe we answer it with this saying, will you hold me accountable because you love me? And hopefully you think a little bit about that as you deal day to day with your family, your kids, and everybody. How can I hold them accountable more? And how do I show them my love through that? And why is this important? Because if the team does not hold each other accountable, they're going to think that results don't matter. And we're going to talk about results next time, and this will be the last dysfunction of the series. Or, yeah. Any questions, comments, ideas? All good? All right. So let's get up and pray. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. Thank you, Lord. Hear us when we say with all thanksgiving through the intercession of all your saints, St. Mary and St. Mark. With all thanksgiving, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Give us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. In Christ Jesus our Lord. All right. Thank you all. Yeah.